Hey, welcome back to Shifting the Narrative with Carrie Tay. I am Caritha Taylor. Today we're going to talk about moving into purpose and out of comfort, and why there's a narrative that even needs to be shifted, specifically in my life. But I hope that as I go through this story, this conversation, that you will also see why the narrative needs to be shifted in your life. So that you can then make the choices and put the actions into place to shift the narrative in your life. So to talk about moving out of comfort into purpose, we have to go back to one of my most prominent childhood memories. And it's interesting because it's one of my mother's most prominent memories of my childhood as well. And it is me in the living room of one of my many childhood homes reading the newspaper upside down. And this is between kindergarten and first grade, where I have this memory of reading the newspaper upside down. And I was honestly reading, my mother says, not just blabbering apparently, but I remember that, and it's associated with the first memories of what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? So this is at the age where everybody's asking, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we're enthusiastic and we want to do things that change the world, right? We want to be doctors, we want to be lawyers, we want to help people. I find it interesting that we usually inherently want to help people, be a firefighter, a police officer. We want to protect. So for me, it was, I want to be a lawyer. I remember that. I remember having some thoughts about wanting to be a doctor. But the one that really sticks out is the one that didn't make much sense at all. And that was, I wanted to be a philanthropist. And I associate that with my newspaper reading, because growing up poor in Detroit, there's honestly no way I had any idea what a philanthropist was. There was also no way that I had been in contact with a philanthropist either at that point in my life. But that's what I said I wanted to be. And that was one of the things that kind of got buried deep inside of me. And it wasn't until a few years ago that it came back up, that I had this desire to be a philanthropist. I enjoy giving, volunteering, helping the people who are in my circle, as well as the people in the communities that we live in, and people who I've never seen or never met and never will. That is part of what God has given me as a desire to help people. And it's really associated with this idea of being a philanthropist. Well, as an adult, obviously, I understand more about what being a philanthropist means, what that really is, the resources that it requires. But I've also found that in that space between what we wanted to be when we were dreaming as elementary age children, and into the point of high school, perhaps college, but beyond that point, that something happens in that space where we lose our enthusiasm for those world-changing professions that we were looking for. Life happens, and we get more realistic into what we are going to be. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but do you ever wonder what happened to those childish desires? What happened to that dream to be something extraordinary? Why did life cause us to leave those things behind, see them as childish desires and as something that wasn't achievable? So for me, it's been searching that concept and that idea. Now, I have found success by most measures of the world. And I'm grateful that I'm in a place in my life now where my desire is to be what God has called me to be. That the measures of success in this world are not enough, or ultimately just not the goal. So getting a degree, getting a good job, even getting married, we had some delays in starting our family, but all of those things are the world's measurement of success, to some extent, living the American dream, if you will. But in my 30s, I really started to search, God, what Why am I here? Anybody else like that? Like you turn 30 or before you turn 30, crossing that threshold, it becomes this checklist of what have I accomplished? What did I set out to accomplish, right? When you're young, maybe it's like middle school. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be married by this age and have kids by this age and do X, Y, Z. And then for me, it was like going into 30 became this full all out assessment of have I accomplished anything? It's almost negating everything that I had accomplished because this feeling of sort of inadequacy came upon me. Well, also in that assessment, gratefully, it really became about, God, what do you have for me to do on this earth? What is the impact that I'm supposed to make? How do I allow your light to shine through me on this earth? How do I bring glory to your name and to the kingdom that people would get to know you the way that I know you? And through that, I really began to pray and to fast and to draw closer to God and to understanding what is that purpose? What am I supposed to do? And how do I execute it? And so God really, prior to this and during this time, began to download things into me. You're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this. And I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm super excited about those things and I want to execute them. But in the meantime, life was happening and I wasn't making time to execute the things that God had given me. I was going to work and focused on my job and on family and on the things going on. And I just kept putting the things that he had given me to do on the back burner. And so I had to really just accept the fact that I wasn't prioritizing the things that God had given me. And then I began to pray about how do I become a good steward, a better steward of my time, that I may execute the things that you have given me to do. You didn't give me these things without the resources to complete them. So what I know now is that I had to develop into the person that God needed me to be as I began to execute the things that he had given me to do. And so for me, that meant making a shift out of the comfort of my corporate job of almost 14 years, again, where I had seen actually great success. But God is calling me to a different place, into a risky place of living in purpose in a way that I never really imagined. And so I've been able to take the leap of faith after a lot of prayer and fasting and conversations with my husband, to live a life that is different than what may be viewed as acceptable, but so that I can fully walk in purpose. So what purpose is God calling you to? What is that thing that's buried deep inside of you that you feel in your belly, that you still get a little excited about when you think about it, but then you quickly capture that thought with doubt? You cover it in doubt. I can't do that. I don't have the time to do that. I don't have the skills or the talents to do that. But for some reason, the desire is in you. I challenge you today to take some time to journal about that desire, to take some time to pray, to have a conversation with God about that desire. That means that you are going to talk to him, but that you're going to also allow space to hear from him. Because in that space of hearing from him, you're going to feel the challenge of risk in one way or another. Your challenge may not be to leave your job or to make a shift in your employment, but your challenge may be other things in your life that God is calling you to do or not to do in order to fully live in purpose. But we've got to spend time with him to get to know those things. So I hope that you would spend some time reflecting, that you'll spend some time writing, that you'll spend some time listening and praying, that you would get in touch with the purpose that God has for you, even in the smallest things. Maybe it's how you pray for people. Maybe it's sending cards of encouragement. Maybe it's picking up the phone and just being a listening ear for someone. Whatever it is that God is calling you to in this moment, I dare you just to take the risk, because he's already prepared you and he's already prepared the path. He's already given you the skills and the talent and the grace to run the race. So get in your lane, get on your marks, and run after it. Thank you for joining me today, for listening. Don't forget, share, like, subscribe, and make sure those notifications are on for the next episode of Shifting the Narrative with Carrie Tay. Be inspired, be empowered. Let's shift the narrative today.